Okay, good afternoon. Today is November 7th, 2017. This is a basic Excel class, right? The topic that we're going to be covering today is to understand the basic ribbon structure, the basic structure of Excel. In other words, how to navigate through Excel. All right, so one of the things that happens when somebody opens Excel is that they kind of looks crazy. Like, what are all these different things that are in front of me? Sometimes it gets so overwhelming, people are turned off by it. But I'm going to break it down in such a way that we can understand the structure so that whenever you're using Excel, it'll make your life a lot easier. All right. So beginning, when you look at Excel, you'll see that on the very top, you'll see a green bar that goes across. So let's look at that bar. In the very middle of the bar, you'll see Book 1, Excel Book 1. You see that? Excel Book 1, I'll point to it here, Excel Book 1, right? And that is the area in which the file name appears, right? So whenever you open Excel for the first time, you'll see that it says Book 1. So that gives you an understanding that book represents something, a book. Wow. It's not just a file name, it says book. What's a book? A book has pages, right? So you would imagine that if it says Book 1, it referred to many different pages. All right, so Excel document itself has many different pages. So that's why it's referred to as Book 1, right? So you can open up several books under Excel. Each book will have a different number, Book 1, Book 2, Book 3. But the thing to note is that once you give the file a name, a file name, the Book 1 will change to that file name. So for example, if you're going to start this first project, we're going to call it just a test project. So if I go into File, Save As, which allows me to save the document with a file name. We're going to discuss also the difference in the commands, the save and the save as command. But for now, I just hit the File Save As, and I'll get the file name here. So I'm going to put the word test. So I'm calling my document test at this point. And I'm going to click Save. And look what happens where we had Book 1. What's there? Test, right? So once you give the file a name, the name is replaced, or Book 1 is replaced by the name, right? In addition to that, you will see XLSX. You see that? That's the extension. Now, sometimes if your machine is not configured to show that extension, it won't. But every Excel file has XLSX. That's the new name. If you're familiar with the older version of Excel prior to 2007, the names will not have that extra X on there, right? Because that extra X stands for XML. That's the new software that the versions are now built with since 2007. XLSX, right? And it is significant because it allows the software different coding, which will create a reliability, different functionality within the software, including reliability, right? So this XML that they're now coding or using to code the software allows reliability, security, and so on. All right, so today's class, we're simply going to cover the simple infrastructure of Excel. Next to the name, if you move to your left side, you'll see that there is a toolbar right here. This is called the Quick Access Toolbar. the quick access toolbar. And by default, you'll see like autosave off, and you'll see some other symbols on the quick access toolbar. Now the quick access toolbar is just that. In the older versions, we used to have toolbar that allows us to go and select commands, right? So a quick access toolbar gives you quick access to the tools. And they do have default tools already on them, but you'll see that you can add a tool to it as you go along. So why would you add a tool to the quick access toolbar? Simply because you're using that tool very frequently and you want easy access to it. That's the reason you use it. Note that the quick access toolbar can be placed below the ribbon, and we're going to talk about what is the ribbon, or above the ribbon. So the quick access toolbar has a lot of settings, right? If you go to the right of it, you'll see that there's a down arrow, right, with a bar over it, right? Whenever you see a down arrow with a bar over it, that's a menu. So whenever you click on that that command that has that down arrow, it will show a menu. And on that menu, you'll see different settings. For example, you'll see the current tools that are on the toolbar, right? Automatic save, save. Everything that you see with the check mark is already placed on the toolbar. But what I want to show you is right at the bottom. Show below the ribbon. Show below the ribbon. So we can reposition the toolbar either above the ribbon or below the ribbon. So what is the ribbon? Well, the ribbon is the new interface of the Microsoft Office suite. Now, prior to 2007, the interface was menu driven. Since 2007, they have created a infrastructure, a GUI, a graphical user interface infrastructure called the ribbon. So the area that's around the ribbon includes the tab, the group, and a command. And we're going to talk about what is tab, group, command, because that's the infrastructure. Tab, group, command. And that forms the ribbon. The ribbon. All right? So next, let's look at the right side. You'll see that there's an author's name, right? And that's really cool because with the new Excel, you can collaborate with others. You can share documents and so on. So you want to know who's currently working on an Excel project with you. So there's the author's name at the top, right? And next to that, you will see that there is a button that allows you to hide the ribbon or show the ribbon. So for example, remember it said the area that shows the ribbon, that tool, if I say auto hide the ribbon, you'll see that the ribbon area is gone, right? If I click on that auto hide, and sometimes what happens is while you're working, you may accidentally hide the ribbon. And this is where it's confusing for a lot of beginners. If they hide the ribbon, they get kind of frustrated where it is. Well, simply put, when the ribbon is hidden, you'll see an ellipsis, that 3 dots ellipsis. See that 3-dot ellipsis? If we click on that 3-dot, you will get back the structure, right? So what did I just do? I just hid the ribbon, right? So ribbon display option is what it's called. And I can hide the ribbon, I can show the tabs, just the tab of the ribbon, or I can show the tabs and the command structure. All right, so what am I talking about? At the very top, right? And again, if you're using a different version, bear with me, you will not see the newer features, right? You'll see that these are newer features, but nevertheless, this is still a ribbon if you're using an older version since 2007, and you can hide or show the ribbon as well in those versions. It's just that the newer version have additional tabs at the top. And this is new since 2013, the auto hide, auto show the ribbon. So you will not see that in 2007. However, in the 2007 version, you will have commands that allow you to show or hide the ribbon as well. All right. Next to that, you will have, you'll see three different buttons. One to minimize, and whenever you minimize, you're minimizing to the desktop, right? And just click on it again and go back, open it up, right? So that allows me to minimize, right? And what does the other one allow me to do? Restore. Restore, if I'm working on a document and I'm working on multiple documents, I can minimize, or I can change the size of the screen, right? If I click on that, you'll see that the adjustment to the screen, right? See that? So I place my cursor at the bottom, and I can diagonally drag the screen back and forth, so I can make it as large as I want or as small as I want. And that's handled through the minimize button, right? Of course, if I click on the minimize button, I can either expand, I can maximize, or minimize the screen. But that allows me to work on the document and do other things, right? So while I'm working on my document, I can do other things. And last on that level is the close button, right? And that button where it says close allows me to close the document. So at the very top, we just discussed the quick access toolbar, what that's used for. We discussed the file name in the middle, and we discussed the author's name, and we also discussed how we can expand or collapse the ribbon, and then we can minimize or maximize or close the document. Those are the buttons at the very top, right? And I will show you in the future exactly documentation exactly what those are. So if you didn't get it right now, don't worry about it. We'll be able to look at it in more detail. All right. The next part of the ribbon is what we call the tabs, right? Say File tab, Home tab, Insert, Drawer, Page Layout, Formulas, Data, and so on. Those are called tabs. And if you recall, if you were to file documents in a cabinet and you're using the yellow folders at the top where you're putting your labels, what are those called? They're also called tabs, aren't they? They're also called tabs. So this represents the same as if you were opening your file cabinet with tabs at the top, right? So each tab will change the command structure, right? Each tab, under each tab, you'll see that there are commands that represent that group. So each tab has its own group of commands. So what are groups? If you look at the very bottom of the ribbon that we just discussed, you'll see names like clipboard, font, alignment, number, style. See that? Those are called groups. So within tab, you have groups, right? At the top is a tab, at the bottom, they're called groups. And that's important to understand because initially, Microsoft kind of grouped things the way they know how people are very productive with the software, right? But they've also given us options to go in and change our groups, to add groups or remove groups according to the way we work. So it is very customizable. The Office, since 2007, the Office products across the board are very customizable. The ribbons are customizable. In other words, I can change the group and the tab. I can create new groups and I can create new tabs as well. And we're going to talk about that in a future class. But for now, we are looking at the default, the standardized tabs and groups, right? So at the very top, we have tabs. At the very bottom, we have groups, see? clipboard, font, alignment, those are group names. And that becomes important when you're trying to find commands. Right? Now, the next step is within groups, there are commands. Within groups, there are commands. So, for example, you have home, and the first group is clipboard, and within clipboard, you'll notice there's cut, paste, copy, and format painter. Those are called commands. So if you're following, you will note that I have a structure of tab, group, commands. Tab, group, commands. And I want you to kind of memorize that in your brain, right? Kind of reflect on that. Tab, group, command. I want you to say that a couple of times. Tab, group, commands. The reason is that when you're working with Office, Microsoft Office, across the board, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, no matter what it is, it's the same infrastructure. Tab, group, command. And the reason we're going to have that burnt in our brains because whenever we're looking for a particular command, we have to go through that structure. Tab, group, command. Now, the other thing that you will learn is that at the very bottom, next to tab, group, command, at the group level, you'll see that there is a arrow pointing downwards, right? That's called a dialog box. That's a dialog box. Now, dialog boxes are very important. Dialog boxes. Now, the dialog box allows you to open up more commands within that group. So if I should click on this dialog box, notice I'm in the clipboard group under the home tab, but if I click on that dialog box, it will open up more clipboard information, right? So it expands it, right? So that little arrow is very important. Those are called, there's a dialog box which when you click on it will open up more commands within that group. Expand that group. All right, next to each command, you will see a down arrow. See that down arrow next to each command? Right, that's called a menu. Those down arrows are called menus. So when I click on that down arrow, it will show me a menu. See? Copy, copy as picture. Right? So understanding the symbols, understanding the structure is very important in order to use the software. Right? So let's retract. Within Office, there is the ribbon. We said the ribbon is the user interface, the graphical user interface to the software, right? That's what we as users use to interface with the software. Now, the ribbon is formed by tab, which is at the top, tab. So tabs would be like file, home, insert, drawer, and so on, right? So those are tab, referred to as tabs. Under a tab, there are groups. There are different groups under a particular tab. Like the home tab has clipboard, font, alignment, numbers, and so on. Those are groups. And within those groups, we have commands. And each group will have its own set of commands, right? So under the clipboard group, you'll see cut, copy, paste, and format painter. Now, in addition to the commands, next to the group name, we said that there is a down arrow pointing in the lower right-hand corner of each group. That is called a dialog button, and that allows you to expand the group. Next to each command, there is a down arrow, which is referred to as the menu, right? So if I were to write this in my notes, obviously, let me just skip over here for a second. I would simply put tab, down arrow, group, down arrow, and I'm just going to command CMD, right? So this is how I would note, this is my notation, tab group command. Within groups, I have the dialog box, which allows me to expand on that group, right? All right? And then next to the commands within a group, you may see a down arrow, and that is a menu, and that menu will have more commands that relate to the same topic, the same group, right? So again, when you look at Excel, it looks very busy, but if you break it down like this, you'll see that it makes it a lot simpler, right? Tab group command, the dialog box, and the menu button. In addition to that, whenever there's an object, and we're going to talk about this later on, but whenever there's an object placed in your document, there's an extra tab at the top called a contextual tab. So at the very top here, you'll see that there are other tabs that can appear depending on the objects that you have in the document, and those are called contextual tab. So above a tab, you can have a contextual tab, and they said that will appear when there's an object in your document. We're going to talk about what those are as well. But for now, understand that you can have an additional tab at the top called a contextual tab. All right, so that's the basic infrastructure for all Microsoft Office products. But specifically to Excel, you'll see that there is another line under the ribbon, right? See, there's another line. This is specific to Excel now. For example, under the ribbon, right, you'll see that there is a box to your left that's called a name box. That would be the name box. That's called a name box. And I will expand more on what the name box is used for in a little while, but just keep in mind that we're just simply looking at the structure right now of the software. Then next to the name box, you'll see some symbols like cancel, enter, and FX for function buttons. So these are your function buttons, your insert or your enter button. So for example, the check mark is your enter button. The X is your delete button, right? So I can delete something, I can enter something, or I can put in a function, right? In Excel, you'll learn later on that there are things called functions. And in addition to that, you will see that there is a text box which allows you to enter information into Excel. So below the ribbon, we have the name box, right? We have the delete, enter, and function buttons, and we have the enter text box. Okay, any questions there? All right, so keep in mind this infrastructure because it's going to be very easy if you can understand what the structure is. In addition to understanding the structure, when we talk about a document, we can use multiple documents within Excel. All right, so right now we are on an empty document displaying the command structure, but we can have several documents open at the same time, right? And each time you'll see that there is an additional close button just for the document. So I can close the document but still have the application open. I can close a document while I have the application open. So I can have several documents open under one session of the application. All right, so you want to see how that works? Remember when we talked about the first document, we said it was book 1, right? So if I should go in and open a new document, just open a new blank document, open another blank document. Any document, open new. Notice that book 2 appears, right? See book 2? Where do you see that book 2? Again at the top, right? So what does that tell me? Guess what? I have multiple documents open, at least 2. One's called test and one's called book 2, right? So here, if I can close them and open them as I like, right? So for example, my book 2 and my test, right? Remember I changed the document to test, right? So what I'm saying is you can have multiple documents open at the same time. All right? So, but you have to be careful when you're working on multiple documents at the same time, right? Because you don't want to cross the information, right? When you're entering. And you're going to see that that happens a lot if you have multiple documents open. Let's see if I get document open. All right, and again, book 2 and book 1. So we're on Excel book 1. But remember, you can have several books open at the same time. All right, and if I want a book closed, I must click on the close button. Remember where the close button is? Did you right at the top, close, right? The close button, and that closes, right, the document, right? So again, I can have several documents open under the same session, right? Okay, we're back and we're talking about the infrastructure of the Excel interface, right? And we did cover the basic ribbon structure, and then we talked about the Excel, the Excel features, like the name box, delete button, the enter button, function button. And on your right, you will see that there is a scrolling bar which allows a vertical scroll, right? Up and down. See that scrolling bar here? That allows you to go up and down the Excel spreadsheet. And at the very bottom, you will see that there's a vertical scrolling bar, right? Which allows you to do the same. But take a look at this indent here. See those 3 little dots here on that scrolling bar? I can drag that bar and allow more scrolling, right? Now, this is a tab scrolling, so what happens, you'll see that there's a name right here, sheet 1, see that sheet? I can have up to 257 sheets within my workbook. So right now you're seeing sheet 1, right? And if I should add more sheets, 1, 2, and as many sheets as I want, I can then use the scrolling bar to hide the sheets. See that? Or to show the sheets. Right? And again, in Excel, you'll see that, again, it's a book, right? So there's a lot of sheets. Right? Of course, that gives us an enormous surface to build our document on, or several documents, right? In addition to that, you will see the scrolling bar. You see the left and the right scrolling bar, right? Allow you to scroll through the number of sheets that you have, right? And again, that will occur if the sheets are hidden. So for example, here's sheet 1. If I scroll through it, you'll see that there's sheet 2 and 3 and so on, right? So those little features allow you to scroll through different sheets. Now you may wonder why you need different sheets, but yeah, documents are written within the book, and those are different sheets. So I can have several different reports, both on the main sheet and other sheets as well, right? They may relate to one project. They don't have to be related to one subject. They could be one project, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, something like that, as you go along, right? So in addition to the scrolling bar here, at the very bottom, you will see that there's a status bar. See, it says ready, right? And there are 3 modes in Excel that is, there are more than 3 modes, but 3 main modes in Excel. Right now it says ready, right? The ready mode. So there's also the enter mode and the edit mode, and we're going to talk about that because it's very significant to understand that the different modes will give you different commands at the top as well, right? What your access to different commands. So in addition to the modes, you will see that there is a macro button that allows me to customize my status bar. What do I want to appear on my status bar in the bottom, right? Cell mode, right? Flash fill, blank cells, and so on. So wherever you see the check mark, that is already set to on. These are toggle switches. They're either on or they're off. So, for example, if I wanted to see a sum amount on my status bar, and I have some kind of calculation, and I have sum here, that will appear on the status bar. So wherever I have the check mark, that will appear within the status bar, right? Understood? Okay, so what I'm saying is you can customize your status bar further, right? And you'll see when you're writing a document, it becomes important if you can customize your status bar to what you want to see. Here's one that captivates a lot of folks, the mode. If you're typing, and you see, once you start typing in a cell, sometimes when you type, the text move to the left, or there's an insert, or there's a type over, right? That's where you can control that typing over or the insert within the cell, right? So we're going to expand further on that. That's for a more advanced class, but we're going to expand further on those as well. All right, so just remember that you can customize your status bar here. All right, next to that, there are some commands on the status bar, right? Different view modes, right? For example, you have your normal view, and you're going to see it's the same thing as going to view normal, right? Same commands. Page layout view, it's the same thing as going to view page layout. So these kind of match, right? It's just an easier way to access the same commands that are on the menu. In addition to that, you have your zoom, which allows you to, like you're looking through binoculars, right? You can zoom in and zoom out, but it doesn't actually physically change the size of your document. It's just a matter of the way you're viewing it, right? All right, so that concludes the infrastructure of Excel.